It's been nearly 2 years since Alex Smith suffered a horrific leg injury against the Texans. Many believed his career was over at that point. However, no quitting this guy. After a long battle, nearly lost his leg. The Alex Smith Project, we saw that documentary a couple of months ago on ESPN, the arduous rehab. He is now cleared by doctors to return to football. Now, he's on the PUP list here, right? But according to Ron Rivera, Washington's coach, he could be a part of their plans. In or out? You do expect to see Alex Smith start another NFL game in his career?
I don't think it will be with the Washington football team, but I could see him starting someplace else for another year, or not for a full year, but getting somewhere on another team as a backup if he proves to be fully healthy, and then because of circumstance ended up starting a game. It's going to be a team that's lacking a quarterback or wants someone like a Ryan Fitzpatrick type at this age for Alex Smith to just be there just in case. And then, so, yeah, I could see him starting another game. I don't think it'll be in Washington, though. I
agree. The answer is inbounds. He's going to be good for the quarterback room. He's a smart guy. He's a great teammate. His teammates love him. I told you at the time Staley almost wanted to rip me up and split me in half.
That's right.
I was a little bit
you
too
were
harsh
criticizing him.
Yeah, a little too harsh on his points.
He wasn't number one overall. I mean,
yeah, I know. I probably deserved it. Although I was right at the time, I love that Staley had his back, and that was reflective of how his teammates feel and his coaches. So, because you're so well thought of at that point, you'll get the extra year or two, which means you'll wind up in a situation where you're on a roster and a guy's either playing poorly or he gets hurt because it's the NFL. Yeah, I would absolutely bet money on this. You play the odds when it comes to football, the chances that somebody goes down inbounds, and we're all rooting for him. I love Alex Smith. I really do. All right, Teague, as the NFL works out how to start the season during the pandemic, the other issue, of course, is kneeling during the anthem. Yesterday, Steelers defensive lineman Stephon Tuitt tweeted, quote, "I'm not kneeling for the flag, and screw anybody who has a problem with that," end quote. Now, we all remember back in 2017, former U.S. Army Ranger Alejandro Villanueva, O-lineman for the Steelers, stood in the tunnel alone while the rest of his teammates remained in the locker room, and there were some, issues with that, and they had to resolve it. In or out, the decision to stand or kneel will cause friction throughout the NFL this year.
I'm going to say out of bounds of that, BT. I think we've gotten to a point where we all understand that it's each individual's right to do what they feel comfortable with, and if you are on the other side of it, instead of having vitriol or ire, you just have a discussion. I think it's, especially in the league, I think that polarizing nature of this issue has calmed down to the point where it's talking or speaking as opposed to yelling like it was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think that's a really good read. I say out of bounds as well. The rhetoric around it, it's dialed down. It's not engulfed in flames anymore.
That's right.
It's more civil.
That's right.
There's been greater clarity the last year or so. And I think what you've seen now, we saw this in the NWSL. We've seen this in Major League Baseball with certain players who certainly want to stand, as I would stand, but they put their hand on teammates who are kneeling to let them know, this is what I believe in, I'm standing, but I got you, I believe in you, and I have you back. This is just how I choose to represent the flag. So I think the symbolism behind those type of actions, I think it's already led to a far more civil discourse and a thawing of the ire and the anger. So, yes, I agree. Out of bounds. I think you're right. The NBA restart just 2 days away. Zion back in the bubble after leaving for 8 days. He had to go away for a family emergency. While away, he tested negative for COVID. So now he's got to quarantine for just 4 days before he can get back on the court. GM David Griffin discussed Zion's conditioning, saying, quote, "Literally any player who went 13 days without doing any physical activity, it isn't going to be a given that we just cut him loose that next game. That's common sense," end quote. So the Pelicans should put Zion on a minutes restriction during the seeding games.
No, hell no. Out of bounds, man. You got to try to make the postseason, even if it's just for one series against the Lakers. You got to try to make the postseason. He's in great shape. Look at him, man. He's in unbelievable shape. He spent the off time between the stop of the season and the restart, getting in ridiculously good shape. And I understand that he's been away for 13 days, but I find it very hard to believe that he did nothing for 13 days, that he sat on a couch and had potato chips and got fat and happy in 13 days. I'm going to say out of bounds, man. Let him be him.
Now, listen, no way. And I'm surprised that you're the one who's doing this because obviously as a former athlete, you see it the right way, but I'm always generally want to side with, you know what, they're young, physical, resilient athletes. Put them out there, they'll be fine. But you cannot sacrifice the future for the now. And I'm not saying that you definitely would. What I'm saying, though, is I'm not willing to take the chance. Look at somebody like Giancarlo Stanton. When you say that, you look great. Yeah, Zion looks great. But you don't know soft tissues, a tweak, a pull, a little something. I don't even want to jinx the young man. There's absolutely no reason to. He was on a minutes restriction before the season was shut down. Why would you not?
No, he was. He wasn't necessarily.
He wasn't like the first time. There was restrictions when he first came back.
Yeah.
And he only played a few games, so he never got deep into it.
True.
Come on.
What did he play? 20 games?
No, he didn't play 20-something. I don't think he played. I think he played like 13, whatever it was.
Maybe,
he didn't play 20, I don't think. I don't think he played that many. So I would ease into this, and I would absolutely take my time. Zion is a pup. You can't throw them out there with the pit bulls yet and expect them not to maybe get bit. These guys are chasing championships. They've been pros for longer. They know how to get their bodies ready quicker. I wouldn't risk it. So I would absolutely have a minutes restriction from the get-go. No doubt about it.
Let the dog eat, BT.
Ooh, let the dogs out. They debate whether to push back the start of the season or even maybe move it to the spring. Oklahoma's doing the exact opposite. They're revving things up. They're moving it up. The opening game against Missouri State, which obviously is a bye game, probably giving Missouri State about $1 million to come up and get smacked. That's September 5th. They're going to move it to August 29th. Joe Castiglione, the AD, here's what he says. The move is to help our teams manage any variety of possible circumstances that may occur. Now we'll have a span of 5 weeks to play 3 games, in or out. The decision by the Sooners to move the opener up is in or out.
I'm going to say inbounds of this, BT. I think this is kind of a unique way. If everyone is healthy on your squad, or at least your squad is healthy enough that you can field one without compromising anybody, it does give you some viable options down the line. It creates additional bye weeks and things of that nature. The problem, though, that I wonder is it like how ununiform is college football going to be this season, right?
Yeah.
One team's got like 3 bye weeks and the other team's got, 1. It
could be.
It could cause some problems, but I want to say inbounds of this. I think it's smart from an individual university standpoint.
I think it's great foresight. I mean, listen, you get to the Big 12, you can't control what happens to Iowa State's program or Kansas or Baylor or Texas, but you know what? You can control creating some wiggle room in case something goes awry within your program medically. So I think it's very smart. I think it's innovative. I'd actually like to see other teams do this. Because, let's face it, I know baseball's different. You play every day.
Yeah.
But imagine if the Marlins were able to, instead of having to now basically miss 7 games and work this into the back end of the schedule at some point, imagine having that wiggle room to operate where you can, pick and choose and select it. I think it's great. I don't know if it's going to work, but I think that you have to have multiple plans to try to get things to work. And I applaud Oklahoma's vision. I really do. It's smart. Thanks for watching. Make sure you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell to be notified when we drop fresh content.